The first thing Adrian noticed wasn't the elegance of the frame. It was the absence of her signature. Each year, without fail, Serena would handwrite a small note behind every photo frame she gifted him. A tiny ritual between them, a date, a line, sometimes something cheesy like, "To the men who taught me patience," or once, "One more year of not killing each other," always in her neat cursive. But this time, the back of the photo was blank. The frame was perfect, too. Perfect. Glossy mahogany finish, professionally mounted. Their photo captured from the charity gala 2 months ago where they'd both worn charcoal gray. Serena had looked stunning. And yet something about the whole thing felt off. Adrian ran a thumb over the back, half expecting to find her handwriting hidden in the corner. Nothing, just smooth wood and a tag from a luxury home store they'd never used before. She didn't even bother peeling it off. He was still staring at the photo when a small voice chimed from beside him. "Uncle Adrian," Lily said, tiptoeing over to the coffee table. "Why are there only 2 people in the picture?" Adrian blinked. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "That's me and Aunt Serena." Lily tilted her head, scrunching her little nose the way she always did when thinking hard. "No, I mean the other one. You had a picture there before with 3 individuals. You, Aunt Serena, and the flowerman. The one with the orchid brooch." Adrian's body stiffened. "The flowerman?" Lily nodded. "He was in the last one. I remember because Aunt Serena was holding his arm. I think you weren't smiling." He froze. The last one Lily mentioned was the anniversary photo from last year. Serena had replaced it just that morning, claiming the old one was too dusty. He hadn't questioned it. Now he wished he had. Adrian leaned down slowly, meeting Lily's gaze. "Are you sure, pumpkin?" She nodded confidently, curly hair bouncing. "Yep. Mommy said he looked like a cartoon, like those handsome bad guys." Adrian smiled faintly. "Thanks, Deb." She beamed and wandered back to her coloring book. His smile vanished the second she turned away. He stood still for a long while, the late afternoon light slicing across the hardwood floor, casting orange glows on the furniture Serena had chosen. He could hear the gentle hum of the central AC. He could hear the clicking of Lily's crayons. But inside his chest, silence. A silence that roared. The orchid brooch. That stupid detail. He remembered now. A man had joined them briefly at last year's anniversary dinner. Someone from Serena's firm, Marcus. He'd handed Serena a small bouquet at the entrance, and she'd laughed too long at his jokes during dessert. Adrian remembered feeling out of place at his own celebration, but brushed it off. Then now, he wondered. Was he the third person in the old photo? The one Serena replaced today? He wanted to dismiss it as coincidence. But then again, Serena didn't do things randomly. She curated everything, from dinner to their social media captions. She didn't replace framed memories unless she had a reason. And the blank frame. The missing note. Not a mistake. A message. But Adrian didn't ask. Didn't confront. Not yet. He simply returned the frame to its place, right on the mantel, beneath the soft shadows of their curated, perfect home. His hands were calm. His eyes quietly burning. Inside, something irreversible had begun. Adrian always started his mornings the same way. Earl Grey tea, quiet music, and the soft rustle of legal briefs on his desk before the world demanded his attention. His apartment was modern but minimal, tailored, like the rest of his life. He didn't like clutter. He didn't like noise. Everything had a place, especially in his work. By 35, Adrian was already a senior partner at Sterling and Hayes, one of the fastest-growing firms in the city. He specialized in complex mergers and corporate disputes, the kind of cases where the smallest clause could bring down an empire. His courtroom style was calm and surgical. Never raising his voice. Never bluffing. Just delivering blow after blow in a cold, precise rhythm. Most of his colleagues respected him. Some feared him. A few underestimated him, until they watched him dismantle a hostile witness like peeling an orange. Serena, on the other hand, lived in a different kind of spotlight. She was the founder of Serenity Co., a luxury lifestyle brand built on curated aesthetics, soft pastel tones, and her trademark soft-spoken confidence. Her face was on billboards. Her voice guided podcast listeners through mindfulness. And her fingers designed every product, from scented candles to travel journals. Their worlds couldn't be more different. Law and lifestyle. Logic and intuition. Suits and flowing gowns. But for years, that contrast worked. They met at a networking gala 7 years ago. Adrian was there out of obligation, nursing a glass of water in a sea of cheap wine and empty chatter. Serena had just launched her first product line and was trying to get anyone, to take her seriously. They crossed paths by accident when she dropped a clipboard, and he helped her pick it up. "You're the only person here not pretending to enjoy this," she'd said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "I consider that a compliment," Adrian had replied dryly. Somehow, the conversation never ended. They started dating. It was awkward at first. Adrian was reserved, hyper-rational, difficult to read. Serena was expressive, creative, prone to bursts of passion and frustration. But they balanced each other. She softened him. He grounded her. When they moved into their first apartment, money was tight. Adrian was still working 65-hour weeks as an associate, and Serena poured every dollar into her brand. They shared cheap dinners, argued over thermostats, and once nearly broke up over who used the last coffee pod. But on rainy nights, they curled up on the couch and planned imaginary vacations they couldn't afford. On Sundays, they made pancakes and danced barefoot in the kitchen. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. The success came later. Serena's brand exploded after a celebrity endorsed one of her journals. Adrian made partner the same year. They bought a penthouse overlooking the bay, hired a housekeeper, and stopped arguing about coffee. But somewhere in the upgrades, something changed. They still talked, but less. Still loved, but differently. Adrian noticed it first in the small things. Serena stopped asking about his cases. She would share stories from work, but when he offered thoughts, she'd change the subject. When she left for business trips, she stopped leaving him notes. And then there was Marcus. Marcus was introduced as a supplier. At first, he helped source packaging for Serenity Co., or so Serena said. But over time, his name came up more often. Marcus said the new scent line needs more citrus, or Marcus's team thinks the launch should go global. Adrian found himself hearing more about Marcus's input than Serena's own. When they crossed paths once at an event, Marcus was all charm and teeth. Younger than Adrian, maybe early 30s, with that casual arrogance Adrian recognized from years of cross-examining entitled executives. "You're the famous husband," Marcus had said, holding out a hand. "The lawyer everyone talks about. Serena never shuts up about you." It had been said with a smile, but something behind the eyes lingered. Adrian had smiled back, firm handshake, steady gaze, and said, "And you're the guy who talks citrus." Serena laughed then, light and sweet, and wrapped her arm around Adrian's. "Boys, play nice." He didn't say anything afterward. It felt beneath him to be jealous. He had no proof of anything, and Serena had always been warm with her colleagues. Still, he noticed things. Late replies to his texts. A new perfume she never wore around him. Her phone face down more often. But it wasn't until the missing note on the anniversary frame, and Lily's innocent comment, that Adrian allowed himself to admit what he'd been denying for months. Lily had always been observant. She wasn't their daughter, she was the daughter of Adrian's closest friend, Nathan, who had passed away in a car accident 3 years ago. Since then, Lily spent weekends with Adrian and Serena when her mother traveled for work. She loved Serena's closet, Adrian's bookshelves, and insisted on being called mini manager when she helped set the table. Her presence brought warmth to the apartment. Even in silence, she filled the space with joy. It was Lily who always noticed when Adrian forgot to eat, or when Serena's dresses still had price tags on. She was the one who caught the missing handwriting, the absence in the frame, the subtle switch. Adrian often thought that children had a way of seeing truths adults were too trained to ignore. One evening, as Serena was out at a campaign dinner, Lily sat beside Adrian while he scanned documents. "Uncle," she asked quietly. "Why don't you smile much anymore?" He looked over, startled. What do you mean? You used to. Before. When you and Aunt Serena would dance, you always smiled then. Adrian paused. I guess I'm just busy. Lily nodded solemnly, like a little judge handing down her verdict. Busy people forget to be happy sometimes. He said nothing. That night, he stared at the ceiling long after the lights went out. Serena came home late. He heard her heels click gently across the hardwood floor. She paused by the bedroom door, then continued into the guest bathroom. No goodnight. No kiss. Just silence. And Adrian lay still, eyes open in the dark, replaying the photo frame, the blank wood, the orchid brooch, the name Marcus, Lily's voice, his own hollow reflection. He wasn't angry. Not yet. Just awake. And watching. And very, very quiet. Adrian never made a habit of checking Serena's phone. In fact, he prided himself on it. He'd spent years in courtrooms dismantling relationships, watching how suspicion turned to paranoia, how doubt poisoned communication until nothing pure remained. Trust, once broken, rarely reformed. So he'd made it a rule. No digging. No accusations. No shadows. But Serena had left her iPad unlocked that afternoon, face up on the couch. She was in the kitchen talking on the phone, her voice low and airy, just beyond his earshot. Adrian didn't mean to glance at the screen. It lit up on its own. An open tab in Safari. Left sitting idle. It was an Instagram post, not Serena's. Someone else's. At Marcus Bloom Studio. The photo wasn't extraordinary. A warm-toned, slightly blurred shot of a seaside table. 2 coffee mugs. A journal. And a scarf. The caption was poetic, some mornings are better left in memory. Just thankful she remembered the cinnamon. It should have been meaningless. But Adrian's eyes locked on one detail, the scarf. It was pale lavender with soft embroidered initials. SM. Serena's full name. Serena Mitchell. He stared. Serena had that scarf for years. She'd once told him it was her comfort thing, the one item she always packed, even for overnight trips. He'd seen it stuffed into her carry-on just 2 weeks ago before she flew to Boston for a product retreat. Now it was here. In Marcus's photograph. Draped casually next to a steaming mug. Adrian zoomed in. The initials were unmistakable. He knew them better than most. He'd paid to have them stitched on himself, years ago, as part of a surprise anniversary gift. The photo wasn't tagged. Serena hadn't liked or commented. It was buried in Marcus's feed, unnoticed, until now. From the kitchen, Serena laughed lightly. Adrian's heart was steady, but something beneath it twisted. He turned the iPad off. Set it back where it was. And walked to the bookshelf as if he'd never seen anything. That night, as they ate dinner, takeout, again, Adrian listened closely. I think I'll fly out to Seattle next weekend, Serena said between bites. Marcus is connecting me to a packaging firm that's doing eco-materials. It could be good PR. Adrian nodded. Business trip. Of course, she smiled. You know me. He smiled too. Slowly. Then reached for the soy sauce. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done in 5 years of marriage. When Serena stepped out of the shower and left her phone on the counter, he unlocked it. The password hadn't changed. His birthday. He didn't feel guilt, only calm necessity. Like filing court evidence. He went straight to her messages. The recent threads were clean, all the usual. Her assistant, brand reps, a few high-profile clients. But nothing from Marcus. So he searched Marcus in the bar. Nothing. Then he opened the archive threads. There it was. A conversation labeled M. The messages were minimal, transactional. Scheduling. Shipments. Updates. But he noticed Serena had starred 2 older messages. He clicked on one. Marcus, let me know when you're back in LA. I still remember the scent of your shampoo, even through airport noise. No reply. But Serena had saved it. The second starred message. Marcus, not trying to cross any lines, just saying, if I were him, I wouldn't have let you go to that gala alone. Again, no reply. But it was starred. That said enough. Adrian took screenshots quietly. Not for confrontation, just record-keeping. Evidence. He backed out. Locked the phone. Serena walked in moments later, hair wrapped in a towel, humming. He met her eyes in the mirror. You're flying out tomorrow? Friday, she said, rubbing lotion into her arms. Just 3 days. Marcus is meeting me there. Adrian nodded. She kept humming. Later that night, lying side by side in bed, he turned toward her. Did you leave that scarf in Boston? She blinked. What? The lavender one. With the embroidery. Serena frowned. Oh, yeah. I think so. I might have left it at the hotel. Are you sure? His tone was casual. Because I saw it online. In a picture. Her body shifted slightly. What picture? Marcus's post from last week. Silence. Then, Adrian, please don't tell me you're checking his feed now. I wasn't. It popped up. Another pause. It's just a scarf. Maybe he found it. Why does it matter? He didn't push. Just turned back onto his pillow. Just asking. Serena sighed. You're reading too much into things. It's nothing. Adrian didn't respond. She rolled over, facing away. By morning, Serena was dressed before he even left the bathroom. Her tone was brighter than usual, artificially light. You want me to bring you something back from Seattle? He glanced at her. Maybe just the truth next time. Her face flickered. Adrian. You don't need to explain, he said simply, adjusting his tie. It's business. I understand. She looked at him for a long time, then offered a dry laugh. You're really overthinking this. Maybe that's what you do, right? Think too much. Break things down until they stop being human. He picked up his briefcase. And you make things so human they stop making sense. Their eyes locked. Neither blinked. Then Adrian walked out. At the office, his mind was a machine. He didn't tell anyone. Didn't vent. Didn't act out. He simply began adjusting contracts. Serena's brand and his firm had co-sponsored a media project. He sent a polite notice to pause all shared ventures, pending review. Quietly changed the passwords to their joint portfolio account. Called his accountant and asked what it would take to unwind their business entanglements without alerting the press. Every move was documented. Clean. Without emotion. This wasn't rage. This was strategy. He didn't even know if Serena had done anything physical. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe it was all just emotional. But that was the point. She liked Marcus's words enough to save them. She let him keep her scarf. She had stopped talking to Adrian about anything real, and started smiling more at someone else's poetry. That was enough. She came back from Seattle 2 days later. Chipper and bright. She kissed his cheek like nothing had changed. Told him the meetings went well. Left a paper bag on the kitchen counter, chocolate truffles, his favorite. He opened it. Ate one. They were stale. He didn't say a word. That night, as she fell asleep beside him, Adrian opened a blank document on his tablet and titled it simply. Contingency Plan, Personal. He listed assets. Joint accounts. Property. Private shares. Then he wrote a line at the bottom. Do not engage in direct confrontation until full leverage secured. He turned off the screen. Placed it on the nightstand. And closed his eyes. Serena shifted beside him, her breathing soft. Adrian's mind, however, remained wide awake. Still watching. Still counting. Adrian's body rejected the silence before his mind did. At first, it was subtle. A slight tension in his shoulders as he sat in meetings. A persistent dryness in his mouth when he tried to speak. Then the insomnia crept in like a ghost, dragging sleepless hours across the face of the clock. He would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, Serena's soft breathing beside him the only sound in the dark, wondering how something so close could feel so infinitely distant. His stomach was the next to betray him. Sharp cramps. A twisting nausea that came and went like waves. He stopped drinking coffee, then wine, then, even water made him uneasy. One morning, after forcing himself to eat a dry piece of toast, he vomited in the kitchen sink before he could make it to the bathroom. He cleaned it up quietly. Serena was already gone by then. Off to some branding shoot, or a breakfast meeting she hadn't told him about. He didn't bring it up. He didn't bring up anything anymore. The ache in his gut became a daily ritual. The tightness in his chest, a silent companion. He pushed through it, because that's what Adrian did. Pushed through. Endured. Contained. The firm had just taken on 2 new corporate clients. There were contracts to review, staff to manage, a reputation to protect. He didn't have the luxury of crumbling. But behind closed doors, his world was bending inward. He kept recalling a single memory. A moment so far away now, it felt like it belonged to someone else. 3 years ago, when Serena's company nearly collapsed. Back then, her third product line had failed. A high-profile influencer partnership gone wrong. Negative press poured in. Orders plummeted. Investors pulled out. The brand was on the verge of folding. Serena had shut down. She spent days holed up in bed, her confidence shattered, her phone abandoned, her friends ghosted, her team scattered. Adrian had come home late from the office one night to find her curled up on the bathroom floor, crying over a rejected loan application. She had whispered, "I think I'm a fraud." Adrian didn't hesitate. He knelt beside her, held her, and said, "You're not. You're the strongest person I know. And I'm not letting you go down with this." The next morning, he wired a loan from his own personal savings into her company's account. Quietly. Without fanfare. He made calls to a few clients. Pulled favors. And arranged a meeting between Serenity Co. and a family-run production house he once helped win a patent case. He rewrote her supplier contracts himself. For weeks, he operated as a silent engine behind her relaunch, never asking for credit. When the brand bounced back 6 months later, she gave an interview thanking the support of my team and mentors. She never mentioned Adrian. He told himself it didn't matter. But now, watching her leave again, with Marcus's name casually tossed into conversation, the bitterness clawed at him. She had forgotten. Or maybe she chose to. He remembered the first Christmas after their wedding. They had no money. Barely enough to afford a second-hand tree from a lot 2 blocks away. Serena had insisted on dragging it home themselves. Halfway there, it started snowing. She slipped on the sidewalk. Landed in a pile of slush. And laughed so hard she couldn't stand up. Adrian had pulled her up, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "This is the happiest I've ever been." She had shivered in his coat, clung to his arm, and said, "Promise me we'll always stay like this." He promised. Now he sat in their $1 million penthouse, scrolling through her social feed, watching a video clip from her latest campaign shoot. She was on a rooftop in Seattle. Wind blowing through her hair. Dressed in silk. Smiling into the camera. Marcus stood behind the lens, his voice, warm, confident, directed her poses. Adrian turned the volume off. She hadn't called him once during the trip. Not even a text. He shut the phone and leaned back, pressing a hand to his stomach as it clenched again. That night, he drove himself to the hospital. The doctor was calm. No tumors. No ulcers. Just acute gastritis from stress, poor sleep, and irregular eating. She handed him a bland diet chart and a list of medications. "You need rest," she said gently, "and less emotional tension." Adrian almost laughed. Emotional tension had become the air he breathed. He didn't tell Serena about the hospital visit. When she returned 2 days later, he was already back at the office, head down in a contract dispute. She greeted him that evening with a quick peck and a distracted smile. "I'm exhausted," she said, kicking off her heels. "That campaign was brutal." He nodded. She never asked how he was feeling. He watched her as she opened a bottle of wine, poured a glass, and scrolled through her phone on the couch. Her makeup was flawless. Her nails recently done. Her attention elsewhere. Adrian looked at her, really looked. There was once a time he would have crossed the room, sat beside her, drawn her legs into his lap, and asked about every detail of her trip. He would have listened. Kissed her shoulder. Traced her collarbone with 2 fingers. Whispered words that only she understood. Now, he stayed on the other side of the room. She didn't even notice. The next morning, as she got ready for another press event, she asked absently, "Can you pick up Lily from her piano class this week? I'm flying out again." He stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Toothbrush in hand. "Where to?" "Portland. Marcus's contact at the Eco Lab wants to demo a new material. It could be big." Adrian turned the water off. "You spend a lot of time with him." Serena looked up from her jewelry box. "He works for me." "You're not his only client." She blinked. Then smiled tightly. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything," he said. "Just observing." She rolled her eyes. "You sound paranoid." "Do I?" "Yes," she said. "And insecure. Which is very unlike you." Adrian nodded slowly. He left the room without another word. Later that week, Lily came to stay over. She was a welcome distraction. Chatty. Curious. Always asking questions. But even she noticed Adrian's quiet. "You don't laugh at my jokes anymore," she said over dinner. "I'm just tired," Adrian replied. She peered at him. "You look sad." He reached over, brushed her hair behind her ear, and gave her a weary smile. "I'm okay." But he wasn't. That night, while Lily watched cartoons in the living room, Adrian sat at the dining table, staring at the untouched soup Serena had left in the fridge for him before she left. He hadn't heated it. He opened his tablet again. Updated the contingency document. Added notes. Asset freeze strategy. Legal separation path. Silent filing. Evidence backup drive. Statement draft, public/private. At the very bottom, he added a new line. "I loved her. But I hate betrayal more." He stared at that sentence for a long time. Then he closed the file. And shut off the screen. The apartment was quiet. Only Lily's gentle humming carried through the hallway. Adrian leaned back in the chair, hands folded across his stomach, and for the first time in weeks, let himself feel the weight of it all. Not rage. Not even grief. Just fatigue. And the dull ache of truth, finally accepted. The photo appeared on a Sunday morning. Adrian had just returned from a jog. Towel draped around his neck. Water bottle in hand. He wasn't expecting anything dramatic. He never did on Sundays. It was a day for silence, for reset, for slowly recovering from the wreckage of the week. But as he walked past the kitchen island, his phone vibrated with 3 consecutive notifications from his assistant, Rebecca. "Rebecca, you okay with this post?" "Rebecca, press thinks it's you." "Rebecca, need me to draft a statement." Adrian frowned and tapped the link she'd attached. It opened directly to Serena's public page. A scenic photo. Soft golden light. A dock at sunset. Wine glasses. Silhouettes. Serena's face was turned toward the camera, her body partially angled toward a man beside her, though his face wasn't visible. Just his hand, resting near hers on the table. The caption read, "When the world goes quiet, and the only thing that matters is who's beside you." The hashtags were vague but suggestive. Hashtag grateful, hashtag healing, hashtag quiet moments, hashtag us. Within 20 minutes, comments exploded. "Is that Adrian? You two are couple goals. You're glowing. Love wins. That better be the husband we all adore." Serena hadn't responded to a single comment. She didn't need to. The implication was enough. The man beside her, of course, was Marcus. Adrian didn't need to see the face. He knew that wine glass. That gold watch. He'd seen Marcus wear it before at a media gala, flashing it like a trophy. Adrian placed his phone on the counter, calmly opened the fridge, and poured himself a glass of water. He didn't feel rage. Just confirmation. It wasn't just emotional anymore. It was strategic. Serena was planting a narrative, manipulating public perception, soft-launching Marcus behind veils of ambiguity, while still legally married. He dried his face with the towel, picked up the phone again, and commented beneath the post. "Adrian, thank you for tagging me. Even I didn't know I was in Portland last night. Great lighting though." The comment caught fire instantly. Likes surged. Some thought it was playful banter. Others started speculating. The comment got screenshotted, reposted on Twitter, analyzed on influencer forums. Wait, is he being sarcastic? I don't think that's Adrian. OMG, are they breaking up? Serena didn't respond, but Adrian knew she saw it. By Monday morning, several of their brand partners were emailing his firm, politely inquiring about the optics of current public activity. One of their joint campaigns had already paused scheduled promotions. Adrian didn't wait. He spent the next 48 hours surgically unwinding their financial threads. He contacted the firm's legal department to prepare an internal conflict of interest clause. He revoked her power of attorney, a formality he'd granted during her first startup launch years ago. He called the financial advisor who handled their joint investments and initiated a transfer into his private holding trust. Everything was clean, quiet, within his legal right. By Wednesday morning, the divorce papers were ready, professionally drafted, bound, and enclosed in a folder with her name embossed in silver, a courtesy he didn't need to extend, but he did. Because Adrian never left fingerprints on his exits. When Serena returned late that evening, she tossed her bag on the couch and kicked off her heels, acting like nothing had happened. Adrian was waiting at the dining table. She looked at him and tilted her head. "You're awfully formal tonight." He gestured toward the folder. "Sign it when you're ready." Serena blinked. "What?" He didn't repeat himself. She walked over and flipped the folder open. Her eyes scanned the header, then the body. Silence stretched between them like wire. "Adrian," she finally said, voice breaking slightly. "Are you serious?" "I was serious 5 years ago when I gave you everything you needed to succeed. When I loaned you my savings. When I defended you behind the scenes without needing credit." He leaned back in the chair. This is overdue." She snapped the folder shut. "You're blowing things out of proportion." "Am I?" "That photo meant nothing. Marcus is just a friend." Adrian nodded slowly. "Then why let the world assume he was me?" Serena hesitated. "Because I wanted to provoke you. I wanted you to react." "I did," he said. "Just not the way you expected." Serena stepped back, clutching the folder like it was burning her hands. "You're being childish." "No," Adrian replied, voice calm. "I'm being thorough. You didn't even ask for an explanation." "I didn't need one." She took a shaky breath. "You're making a mistake." "No," he said again. "I'm correcting one." Serena's mask cracked. Her posture sagged slightly, as if the energy drained out of her all at once. "So that's it. You're just walking away." "I've already walked." She moved forward, folding her arms across her chest, almost pleading. "We've built everything together." "No," Adrian said. "I built everything. You turned it into a stage." "I didn't cheat." He stared at her. "But you wanted to." Silence. Then a whisper, "Adrian, don't do this." He stood slowly. Walked toward her. Stopped inches from her face. "I loved you, Serena. I fought for you when no one else would. But you turned my silence into weakness. You mistook my trust for blindness." She was trembling now. "I still love you." He shook his head. "Sadly, you love being loved. That's not the same." When he turned to leave, she grabbed his wrist. "Please don't do this." I can fix it. He didn't shake her off, but his voice came like a verdict. It's not broken. It's just finished. He walked out. The soft click of the door louder than any scream. That night, Serena didn't call. But the next morning, her assistant emailed Adrian's firm requesting a brief meeting to discuss the divorce documentation. He replied with a forwarded copy of the signed filing and a note. No meeting required. All terms are final. File the paperwork. He never looked back. It was the firm's quarterly press event, a celebration of growth, new partnerships, and a recent high-profile litigation win that had cemented Sterling and Hayes' name across 3 major corporate law magazines. Adrian didn't usually attend these events to be seen. He attended because reputation, once built, must be maintained, and nothing sent a clearer message to clients than calm, polished visibility. The venue was modest by their standards. A rooftop garden atop the firm's new headquarters. City skyline in full view. Journalists. Clients. Investors. All present. All waiting. Adrian stood near the far end of the terrace, dressed in a charcoal suit, sipping still water from a stemless glass. His expression was neutral. Posture composed. Eyes calm. He'd already given his speech, measured, minimal, no grandstanding. Just facts. Just power stated with precision. Then the doors burst open. The room shifted. Marcus stormed in. He wasn't dressed like a guest. Not even like a businessman. Ruffled shirt. Mismatched jacket. Flushed face. Wild eyes. He moved fast, ignoring the startled receptionist and the 2 security personnel who followed a step behind, unsure whether to restrain him or just call the police. Adrian turned slowly, watching him approach like a storm cloud deciding where to break. Cross. Marcus's voice echoed. Heads turned. Cameras twitched. Conversations died. Adrian didn't flinch. Cross. Marcus repeated, chest heaving. You think you can just erase me? Adrian set his glass down calmly on a nearby table. Erase you. You destroyed my supplier contract. You pulled strings and got my boutique delisted from 2 major distributors. I had clients pull out after seeing your wife's post. Do you think I don't know what this is? You're sabotaging my career because she chose me. The crowd stiffened. Adrian tilted his head, eyes sharpening slightly. She chose you, he said quietly, tone surgical. Marcus stepped closer, fists trembling. You couldn't give her what she needed. You were cold. Dead inside. She told me herself. A pause. Adrian adjusted his cufflink. Did she also tell you about the prenup? Marcus blinked. No. Adrian asked gently. Strange. She was so thorough about everything else. Did she mention the ownership of her company is technically under our joint trust, meaning she couldn't sell you equity without my signature? Marcus's mouth opened. Closed. Adrian stepped forward once, never raising his voice. She fed you wine and sad poems. You thought it meant a future. You weren't the first. Marcus's face flushed red. You smug. She said that to the last guy too, Adrian cut in, tone razor sharp, and the one before him. The difference is, those men knew what they were. A ripple ran through the crowd. Someone in the back was already filming. She used you, Adrian said, ice in every syllable, to make me jealous. To feel desirable. But she forgot. Serena doesn't need a partner. She needs a stage. Marcus lunged forward, but 2 security guards caught him before he could touch Adrian. Let go, Marcus shouted. You think this is over? I still have messages. She told me she loved me. She said she was leaving you. From the edge of the crowd, a small voice cut through. That's not what she said to me. All heads turned. Lily stood near the corner, arms folded, lips pressed tight. She wasn't supposed to be there. Rebecca had invited her as a quiet guest, knowing Adrian always softened when she was around. She'd been quietly listening from the edge, until now. Marcus stared. Who are you? I'm the one she lied to, Lily said calmly. I'm the one she cried in front of. Said she loved Uncle Adrian. That she was scared of you. That she never meant to take it this far. Adrian's expression didn't change, but Serena, who had been lurking in the shadows behind the crowd, waiting for her moment to pull Marcus back, visibly paled. Lily continued, her voice clear, unwavering. She said she just wanted attention. That she didn't think you'd fall for it. The silence was brutal. Marcus's shoulders sagged. The fight drained from his limbs. She lied to both of us, Lily added. She always does. Adrian stepped forward, nodding to security. Escort Mr. Bloom out, please. The guards nodded and dragged Marcus toward the elevator. He didn't fight. Just stared at Serena as he passed. You used me. She didn't answer. As the door slid shut behind him, murmurs rose across the rooftop. Whispers. Glances. Professional eyes doing quiet math. Serena stepped into view. Adrian, she started, voice shaking. He raised a hand. Stop. I didn't know he'd do this, she said quickly, nervously. He's unstable. You saw that. I also saw your messages. Her lips parted. Then closed. Adrian took a step closer, not out of intimacy, but authority. Do you know what happens when you stage manage a scandal on social media, imply romantic involvement, and let investors believe I'm part of it? Serena swallowed hard. It becomes defamation. And breach of contract. And reputational damage. I didn't think. No, Adrian interrupted coldly. You didn't. That's the problem. You never do. I can fix this. He stared at her, a flicker of something ancient, pity, perhaps, surfacing in his gaze. No, he said. You can't. She reached for his arm. Adrian, please. He stepped back. His voice stayed smooth. Level. Devastating. You burned the bridge, Serena. Now all you can do is watch me walk across the ashes. He turned without another word. The cameras followed him. The whispers grew louder. He didn't stop. He walked straight to the podium meant for closing remarks. Tapped the mic once. And addressed the room. Apologies for the disruption. Let this serve as a reminder, in law, as in life, appearances mean nothing. Facts win. The crowd erupted in polite, stunned applause. He stepped down. Gave Lily a brief nod of appreciation. And exited through the back elevator. He never looked back. By the next morning, headlines had already spread. Marcus Bloom accuses husband at law firm gala, then gets exposed. Lifestyle CEO's love triangle ends with legal firestorm. Adrian Cross delivers coldest comeback of the year. Adrian remained silent. He never issued a statement. But every silent action that followed, the freezing of Serena's remaining business accounts, the leak of her edited captions to the press, the removal of her name from their firm's press pages, spoke louder than any quote. She reached out once more. Just one message. Serena, you were right. I played too far. But I never stopped loving you. He never replied. Instead, he opened his encrypted file labeled contingency, checked off the final step. Heavy checkmark public exposure complete. Then he closed the file. Locked his phone. And stepped into his morning meeting without a single break in stride. The first time Adrian saw Serena's name trending again, he didn't even bother clicking. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind of day he used to dread. Back when every empty hour made space for memories. Now he looked forward to the silence. There were no more unanswered questions. No more mixed signals. No more mental gymnastics trying to decode someone who never deserved to be a mystery in the first place. He sat behind the glass wall of his new corner office, 28 floors above the city, sunlight glinting off the tower windows, a subtle breeze flicking through the open vent behind his desk. Everything about this space reflected who Adrian had become, measured, clear, deliberate. The firm had officially relocated 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, severing the last logistical tie with Serena's company. Sterling and Hayes now occupied 4 floors in a building downtown. Twice the square footage, 5 new associates on board, 2 expansion deals in progress. They didn't just grow, they upgraded. Clients followed Adrian, not the address. He leaned back in his chair, sipping a cup of chamomile tea. Coffee had been off-limits since the gastritis diagnosis, but somehow he didn't miss it. The headaches were gone. So were the nights staring at ceilings, wondering if his own silence had been a form of complicity. The headlines on his laptop screen scrolled slowly. Marcus Bloom arrested outside Serenity Company. HQ claims relationship with CEO was real. Influencer CEO Serena Mitchell faces board inquiry after internal financial audit leaks. Ex-employees of Serenity Co. speak out, it was all an illusion. Adrian sighed and clicked out of the tab. He already knew what happened. After the rooftop incident, Marcus had spiraled. Publicly humiliated and professionally blacklisted, he'd begun stalking Serena, leaving threatening messages, appearing at her office without notice. The restraining order was filed within weeks, but the damage was done. Clients started pulling back. The brand began bleeding from the inside. An anonymous whistleblower, a former intern, ironically, leaked internal documents to a lifestyle blog. Inflated numbers. Fake collaborations. Bribe testimonials. What once looked like a thriving empire was just a carefully curated illusion built on borrowed influence and personal favors. Adrian didn't lift a finger to interfere. He didn't need to. Serena's world was collapsing on its own. The board moved fast. Her voting rights were frozen. Her salary suspended. Within 2 months, a new CEO was appointed and her title was quietly removed from all branding. She was offered a consultant role, a symbolic gesture, something to appease public sympathy. But even that didn't last. By the end of the quarter, Serena Mitchell was no longer associated with Serenity Co. in any official capacity. She had gone from founder to footnote. Adrian's phone buzzed. Lily, lunch in 20. Media Group wants to move the contract to Q4. Adrian replied with a simple, confirmed. Lily had become more than a reliable presence since the divorce. After finishing her MBA, she joined a mid-size tech firm briefly before Adrian invited her to consult on a client's digital rights case. Her insight was sharp. Her instincts cleaner than most seasoned VPs. She wasn't just intelligent, she was emotionally unshakable. It was Lily who helped reorganize the firm's internal content rights structure. It was Lily who handled 2 of the partners during the office move. And it was Lily who intercepted Serena's first email, sent weeks after the scandal, before Adrian ever saw it. He trusted her implicitly. She was everything Serena never was, rooted, principled, present. When the receptionist buzzed his line to say there was someone in the lobby without an appointment, Adrian already knew who it was. Send her up, he said after a pause. He didn't ask why. He already knew. The elevator opened 10 minutes later. Serena stepped out slowly, dressed in ivory, the kind of color that once complemented her perfectly. Today, it just made her look drained. Her hair was still glossy. Her makeup still subtle. But everything about her seemed quieter, thinner, as if the shine had been stripped off, and what remained was only echo. Adrian, she said softly. He didn't stand. Sit if you must. She did, straight back, hands clasped in her lap. I didn't come to make excuses. I know. I didn't come to ask for anything either. He said nothing. She looked at him for a long moment. I just needed to see if you're really this far gone. Adrian tilted his head. Gone. Cold, she corrected. Unreachable. You always used to at least feel. I did, he said. But you mistook my silence for softness. You thought it meant I'd never draw the line. She swallowed. I made mistakes. You committed betrayal, Adrian corrected. Repeatedly. Strategically. I didn't love him. That's worse. Serena exhaled shakily. Do you still hate me? Adrian leaned back. His voice never rose, never cracked. No. That would require energy. And you no longer take any. She flinched. I lost everything. He nodded once. So did I. Difference is, I built again. Her eyes watered. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just needed to hear it. What? That you don't need me anymore. Adrian looked her directly in the eyes. I don't need you anymore. Her lips quivered. She nodded slowly, like someone accepting the final terms of a contract she never thought would be enforced. She stood. Turned to leave. Then stopped. Do you remember that first photo I gave you? She asked, her voice a whisper. No. She nodded again, more to herself than to him. She left. And Adrian let her go without a single glance over his shoulder. 3 months later, his firm won its biggest case yet. The plaintiff was a creative design agency suing a former collaborator for IP theft, marketing manipulation, and deliberate misrepresentation of brand narrative. The defendant was a holding company newly affiliated with Serenity Co., one of Serena's last desperate acquisitions before she lost power. The courtroom was full of familiar names, PR reps, journalists, executives who once posted champagne toasts with Serena's face tagged in every caption. Adrian dismantled them with quiet elegance. No theatrics. Just ironclad timelines, digital records, and contract breaches laid bare. It took 3 days. The jury only needed 2 hours. He didn't celebrate that night. He just walked out of the courthouse, took a cab to his new apartment, poured himself a glass of tea, and stared out at the skyline. It was sunset. Golden hour. The light spilled across his living room in warm orange hues. He glanced at the table near the window. A single glass frame sat there, new, polished, engraved at the bottom. Inside it was the same photo Serena had replaced years ago. The original. With 3 individuals in it. Him. Serena. And in the background, barely in frame, Marcus, holding an orchid brooch, smiling like he belonged. Adrian looked at it for a second. Then turned it face down. He stood in the middle of the quiet, golden-lit room, breathing evenly, calm, and alone. His phone buzzed once with a new email, a client in Singapore, another expansion, another contract to win. He smiled faintly. Then turned off the lights. And as the city darkened beneath him, Adrian whispered to no one at all. She bought 777 roses, but forgot the one thing that mattered most, loyalty.